Is it possible that the simple act of swapping the sex of your breeders can completely transform the destiny and profitability of your poultry production? In our previous video, the link for which I have pinned right below in the description so you can perform the necessary technical comparison, we analyzed in detail the result of crossing a Leghorn Rooster with a Marans Hen. That experiment provided us with specimens of an impressive Dalmatian aesthetic and a very specific light-bodied efficiency that many of you are already implementing in your coops. But today, we are venturing into a much more complex, deep, and fascinating territory, the reverse cross. We are going to place an imposing black copper Marans Rooster as the male genetic pillar, and our tireless white Leghorn Hens as the recipients of this new high-performance heritage. If you believed that in poultry genetics the order of the factors did not alter the final product, get ready to question everything you know about field biotechnology. Today, we propose the real possibility of obtaining an F1 hybrid that is radically more robust, with egg production of a larger caliber and a physical structure that defies the fragility of conventional industrial layers. This is the definitive analysis for the breeder seeking to master the science behind the bird and elevate their farm to a superior level of authority. Let's begin. To break down the magnitude of this biological phenomenon, we must start by analyzing the protagonists from the perspective of their racial purity and their value as genetic assets. The black copper Marans Rooster is not merely an ornamental piece for winning shows. It is a massive reservoir of genes for rusticity, body weight, and of course, a unique porphyrin pigmentation. On the other hand, the Leghorn Hen represents the culmination of decades of genetic selection, oriented exclusively toward extreme metabolic efficiency and daily ovulation frequency. When we decide that the Marans assumes the role of the sire, we are injecting a load of structural dominance and growth that was not present in our previous cross. In avian genetics, there is a fundamental technical difference in how certain traits are transmitted depending on whether they come from the male or female gamete. In this scenario, the Marans Rooster contributes a growth imprint and skeletal development that the Leghorn Hen, with her high-yield reproductive system, will boost in a way that few breeders can even imagine. We are witnessing the birth of a bird that, from its first days in the incubator, shows muscular development indicating we are not dealing with a simple replacement layer, but with an F1 hybrid of superior power designed to dominate the yard. Let us now talk about the first great mystery that often confuses breeders who do not master chromatic inheritance: the plumage of the offspring. Many viewers of the previous video expected to see the Dalmatian pattern again, that black spotting on a white background that is visually very attractive. However, in this reverse cross, the phenotypic reality is quite different due to the interaction of the inhibitor color gene, technically known as the dominant white gene, I. This gene, contributed directly by the Leghorn dam, acts as an impassable biochemical barrier that blocks the expression of most dark pigments in the feathers. But here is where a fascinating phenomenon of epistasis occurs. The color load of the copper Marans sire is so intense and dense that it generates what we call pigment leakage, that the maternal inhibitor gene fails to fully contain during feather development. The result is not spots or dots, but a predominant white coloration interrupted by beautiful and elegant copper and reddish tones, strategically concentrated in the hackles, the neck, and occasionally along the back line. This color distribution is not an error of nature. It responds to the way melanocytes distribute during embryonic development when the sire is the carrier of the dominant pigment load. Visually, this F1 specimen moves away from industrial aesthetic monotony and positions itself as a bird of noble, robust appearance, with a distinction that stands out from any distance. But the true genetic signature of the Marans sire in this cross does not reside solely in the plumage tone, but in an anatomical trait that is a law of purity in this French breed, tireless, or what we commonly know as feathered legs. This trait is governed by a series of dominant genes that, when transmitted by a high-quality Marans Rooster, manifest almost obligatorily in the F1 offspring. Upon closely observing these new hens, you will immediately notice the presence of small but firm feathers running down the outer face of the shanks. It is vital that you, as a breeder, understand that although the Leghorn dam has completely clean yellow legs, the genetic strength of the sire prevails to mark his lineage. For you, this is much more than an aesthetic detail or a curiosity. It is the irrefutable biological indicator that you have successfully transferred the rusticity of the Marans to this new hybrid. A bird with feathered legs is often genetically associated with a metabolism more resistant to the elements, and a much denser skeletal structure. We are creating a bird that feels firm and heavy to the touch, with thicker shanks than those of its sisters from the previous cross, providing them with a much more solid support base for the body weight they will reach in their productive maturity. This physical robustness necessarily leads us to analyze the architectural configuration of the body of this new F1 hybrid. If you remember the offspring of the Leghorn Rooster, they were slender birds with an aerodynamic, light, and extremely agile figure, inherited from the sire's nature. In this new scenario, where the Marans is the male progenitor, the total architecture of the bird shifts radically toward power. These hens inherit the sire's robustness, which translates into superior chest width and a much more developed and deep keel. This has a direct and positive implication for the hen's long-term health. A body with greater volume has a much wider storage capacity for fat and mineral reserves. While a conventional light layer can rapidly deplete its calcium if its diet is not absolutely perfect, this robust hybrid possesses a much more extensive battery of mineral reserves in its long bones. This structural advantage is what allows the bird to withstand prolonged and intense laying cycles, without showing that premature physical were often seen in single-purpose commercial lines. But how does this greater body mass inherited from the Marans influence the primary purpose of our farm, which is constant egg production? This is where the Leghorn dam comes into play, with all her elite genetic power. As she is responsible for transmitting the metabolic rhythm and laying efficiency, these F1 daughters inherit an ovulation machinery configured for high speed. What we get is the ultimate winning combination: the resistance, health, and size of the Maran sire working together with the nearly daily production discipline of the Leghorn dam. The result is a constant surprise in terms of efficiency, because with the bird being physically larger, its reproductive tract has the physiological capacity to form eggs of a superior weight and caliber. We are talking about moving from a standard-sized egg to an egg that is easily categorized as XL or jumbo, with an amazing frequency within the flock. We finally have the best of both poultry worlds: the massive volume of laying that only a Leghorn can guarantee, but with the physical strength and product size that only a Maran sire can successfully inject into the offspring. However, to ensure this complex biological machinery works at 100% of its capacity, the breeder must be aware that managing these birds requires a strategic adjustment in the feed and nutrition plan. We cannot expect a bird with this skeletal robustness and XL egg production capacity to consume the same ration as a low-maintenance light hen. The metabolism of this F1 hybrid is considerably more demanding. It requires an intake of high-quality protein and net energy proportional to its superior body mass. It is a bird that consumes more grams of feed per day, yes, but it is fundamental to understand that this is an intelligent and highly productive consumption. Every extra gram of feed they ingest translates directly into a healthier hen, a significantly larger egg, and most importantly for your final profitability, a meat carcass with a recovery weight that can double that of any traditional Leghorn at the end of its useful life. This is where poultry farming becomes a precision science and a serious farm business. Understanding that the moderate increase in supply costs is, in reality, a direct investment in a final product of much higher commercial value and greater stability of the production system. This specimen represents, in my experience, a perfect balance between the rustic power of the traditional farm and the efficiency of the modern industry. By deciding to reverse the cross, we have unlocked productivity traits that remained hidden when the Leghorn assumed the role of the sire. We are seeing how the Maran's dominance in weight, health, and structure, when met with the characteristic hyperproductivity of the Leghorn, creates a specimen that immediately positions itself as the king of the modern dual purpose in any coop. It is a bird that not only populates your chicken yard with its striking white beauty and copper touches, but also guarantees solid profitability based on the animal's durability and the exceptional and constant quality of its final product. As these birds grow and mature, the genetic surprise continues to manifest in every small detail of their development, from their notably calmer temperament to their impressive capacity to efficiently assimilate nutrients. But to truly understand the total impact this strategic decision will have on your farm business and on the satisfaction of your most demanding customers, we must look even closer at how this genetics behaves when the moment of truth arrives, the onset of lay, and the technical quality of the eggshell. Because, at the end of the day, what we all seek as elite breeders is that perfect egg, that terracotta color that falls in love at first sight, but delivered with the size, hardness, and consistency that only this specific cross of Maran sire and Leghorn dam can offer us in such a convincing and professional manner. Entering the second phase of this analysis requires observing the bird not just as a backyard specimen, but as a high-precision biological unit designed for sustained performance. Once we have understood how the genetics of the Maran sire molds the skeletal structure and plumage of our hens, we must focus on the engine that drives the profitability of any farm, the production cycle, and the final technical quality of the product. In this specific cross, the behavior of the F1 hybrid is a true revelation for the breeder seeking operational stability. Unlike the pure Leghorn, which tends to be a bird of nervous response to any change in the environment, our F1 from a Maran sire exhibits a much more balanced and serene temperament. This calmness is not merely a behavioral characteristic, it is a direct physiological advantage. A calm bird consumes less energy and unnecessary metabolic stress responses, and maintains much more stable blood calcium levels, allowing the shell formation process in the uterus to be fluid and without the interruptions often caused by stress peaks. Let us now speak of the advanced physiology of laying, for this is where this reverse cross delivers its greatest genetic treasure. By having a Leghorn dam, the hormonal system of the F1 daughter is biologically programmed for extremely short ovulation cycles, guaranteeing a laying frequency that directly competes with the best industrial lines in the world. However, the secret to visual and technical quality lies in the chromatic contribution of the sire. The Marans breed is world famous for porphyrin, that hemoglobin-based organic pigment that is deposited on the final layers of the shell just before expulsion. In this F1 hybrid, we observe a phenomenon of natural engineering. The highly efficient reproductive system inherited from the Leghorn sprays this pigment over the shell in a much more uniform and constant way than in pure breeds. This provides us with those beautiful eggs in terracotta, cinnamon, and, in many cases, the coveted pink tones that the specialty market so desires. We are not obtaining an egg at random. We are producing a premium item with the consistency of a high-precision production chain. A critical point that every breeder with authority must master is the relationship between body mass and long-term laying persistence. This F1 hybrid, being physically larger and more robust than the reverse cross where the sire was a Leghorn, possesses a much higher mineral precursor storage capacity. In practical terms, this means the hen has a much wider biological security reserve. When a conventional light layer reaches the final months of her first laying cycle, she usually shows evident signs of physical exhaustion and a drastic drop in shell quality and thickness. Our hybrid from a Marans sire, thanks to that heavy and dense skeletal structure inherited from the French lineage, maintains the technical integrity of the egg for much longer. You will be able to observe with satisfaction that even after a year of intense production, the egg caliber remains in XL ranges, and the shell hardness continues to be optimal for handling, transport, and commercialization without breakage, thus protecting your investment in every delivery. But what happens with real profitability when we look at feed consumption from a business perspective? This is where the breeder must apply their sharpest cost-benefit analysis. It is a biological fact that this hybrid consumes more daily ration than a traditional Leghorn due to its higher metabolic demand to maintain that robust body. However, the analysis gives an overwhelming surprise in favor of the producer. The efficiency of this F1 is measured not only by the quantity of eggs it places in the nest, but by the total protein mass it produces. By obtaining significantly larger eggs and a hen that at the end of her cycle has a much higher body weight, the return on investment balances positively. In the poultry market, the cull hen of this cross has a recovery value that can be double that of a light layer, allowing you to finance a large part of the replacement of your next flock. It is a closed economic cycle where every gram of feed becomes a high-value commercial asset, whether in the form of a luxury egg or an animal protein of excellent conformation. Furthermore, we must consider the superior adaptability of this specimen to different technical management systems. The robustness inherited from the Marans lineage gives it a much higher natural resistance to thermal variations and common environmental health challenges. While high industrial selection breeds tend to be extremely delicate and require strictly controlled environments to not stop their production, this F1 hybrid retains that rustic vigor that allows it to thrive in free-range or semi-confinement systems without its laying curve suffering traumatic drops. It is a versatile bird that gives you the peace of mind of knowing that your production is backed by strong, resilient genetics capable of absorbing management fluctuations without compromising final objectives. For your brand's market positioning, this egg is your best differentiation tool. In a scenario where the consumer is saturated with industrial white eggs of small size, presenting a product with that intense terracotta color and an imposing volume immediately places you on a higher step of authority. You can and should justify a higher price per dozen, not only for the aesthetics of the color, but for the nutritional density and the caliber these birds deliver in a standardized way. In the end, what we have achieved with this cross of a Marans sire and a Leghorn dam is a precision tool that combines European rustic tradition with modern production efficiency, delivering a result that is, in my professional experience, the most profitable and solid balance a breeder can achieve today. This journey through applied genetics proves that deeply understanding our birds is the only real basis for sustainable success. It is not simply about performing crosses at random, but about understanding why every trait, from the feathers on the legs to the chemistry of the porphyrin in the shell, works together to build a productive and respected farm. By choosing this path of technical knowledge, you are opting for an elite level of poultry farming, where superior quality is not a stroke of luck, but the direct result of a genetic strategy executed with rigor and professionalism. Mastering the genetic potential of this F1 hybrid immediately positions you one step ahead of any conventional breeder. You have seen how the robustness inheritance of the Marans sire transforms the offspring into a powerful production machine, capable of delivering XL eggs with the colors the premium market demands and a physical resistance that protects your assets day after day. This is the true power of genetics when applied with a clear purpose and a long-term business vision. If this technical and detailed analysis has inspired you to raise the standards and results of your own farm, I invite you to continue exploring my content, where we break down every secret of professional poultry breeding. Remember that you have the link to the previous video on the reverse cross right down here in the description, so you can perform your own comparison and decide which is the genetic strategy that best suits your current project. For your success, fellow breeder, until next time.